Welcome to developing a work plan for your VISTA assignment description. My name is Stephen Bronskill. I'm a training specialist for AmeriCorps VISTA. I'm a proud AmeriCorps alum. Thank you all so much for your service. I will be your host for today's webinar, and I'm really lucky to be joined by Barbara Reynolds today, the training director here at AmeriCorps VISTA. Welcome, Barbara.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much. It is a treat to be with you today. I'm so happy to see you and all of our VISTA colleagues. I'm loving the September magic that's going on in the chat. Happy birthday, Christian. Lots of other loves of sweaters and possible leaf peeping. So wonderful to see. So happy to see you all today. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Barbara. And Barbara really is a work plan expert. We're really lucky to have her guidance and experience with us today. I want to break down how today's session will go. We are going to break down the uses and components of a work plan. We'll also talk through how to break out your VISTA assignment description into detailed steps with deadlines. And we'll look at a few tools to help you develop your work plan. We'll also ask for your feedback and do some Q&A with some brief closing comments. One quick note before I pass to Barbara, we're excited to share a lot of great information today. We'll answer as many questions as we can. We also have some resources for you outside this webinar. If you're unfamiliar with your VISTA assignment description, if it's changed recently, or if you have questions that apply specifically to your own VISTA project and you want to talk one-on-one, the VISTA member support unit's here to help. So please contact them anytime. I appreciate Stephanie for sharing this in the chat, vmsu@cns.gov. Write it down if you haven't already, and let them know if you have any questions. All right, Barbara, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, it is my pleasure, and some would say really a bit of an obsession for me to get to talk about work plans with you all today. It is one of my odd professional true loves. And so to be able to talk with you about writing and using work plans is such a treat. So again, thanks for being on. The reason I'm so gung-ho for the work plan action is that I think the ability to be able to write and use a good work plan is something that's really quite unique in the professional world, in the work world. And I think it's a skill that once you build it, it will be useful for you for the rest of your career, right? I think it'll be very, very helpful for you this year and in your VISTA service and beyond. And I've been advocating, I've been singing the work plan's praises for a lot of years, working with my own AmeriCorps members, my own VISTA members years ago, working with the graduate students that I've taught and with teams that I've worked on. So like I said, I'm gung-ho, I'm spectacularly committed to it. And I hope that you will also see value in this, again, for your VISTA service and hopefully beyond. So let's get into it. What is this awesome thing that I'm so fired up about? What exactly is a work plan? So at its heart, and really in the simplest possible terms, a work plan is the roadmap for your entire year of service. It's meant to be a written record of the goals and objectives, first from your VISTA project, from your VISTA assignment description, and then it's built out with all of the details necessary to help you reach those goals and get to your destination by the end of your year. Your work plan, I think, can also serve as a type of portfolio to track your progress and accomplishments throughout your service. When used well and often, your work plan can allow you to capture moments in time during your year, like imagine the scene right now. If you were on the road, you could be taking selfies in front of those mountains. I think your work plan is a bit of a way for you to capture moments in time as well, and really see how far you go in your service year. Look back and see how far you've come. I think this type of written record, again, this roadmap, is an unbelievably valuable tool, particularly as you start thinking about, at the end of your service, starting to transition to your life after AmeriCorps and after VISTA. And so I know on screen right now, you can see a few different icons that indicate, again, my love of the work plan and why I think they are so awesome. At the beginning of your service, if you are new into your year, I think the plan, the process of creating this roadmap, this work plan, will help really solidly orient you to your VISTA project and the community where you're serving. As you're getting your legs under you and getting oriented, I think the work plan then helps you navigate your way through the year ahead. I think the planning process can also help allay any confusion or concerns that you might have at the start of your service year. I know that's that kind of tension is often something that folks are feeling right at the beginning. And then I think the planning process, again, can help clarify in detail what the needs of your project are and the requirements for your project. I think the work plan can be a great collaboration tool. It's really something you can't write on your own, and we'll see in just a few minutes what that means. It's something to be done with others. I think particularly with your supervisor, it's a great way to help start building your working relationship and building your rapport. And like I said a moment ago, I think the work plan can become, over time, a really fantastic record of your accomplishments and help you celebrate those all year long. I will say personally for me, as I said a moment ago, like I've been in this work plan game for a number of years. For me, the process, I really appreciate the emotional and the social benefits of writing my own work plan, which I have here in VISTA, and I use it regularly. It helps, whenever I do this, it really helps me reduce my own anxiety when I'm getting ready to get into something new or something particularly complex. And the process of going through my own work plan allows me, and really honestly forces me, to collaborate with my colleagues on some of the important decisions that we need to make in our training work. So that's, again, a little more PR for why I think work plans are awesome.
Barbara is so helpful. I love it. I just want to do a quick check-in with everyone. I know we're all in different places, so a poll is going to appear on screen, and the question is really simple. Have you ever created a work plan? Please feel free to select as many that apply for you. I have created a work plan at my VISTA project. I've done this at a past job, or I have never created a work plan before. And that is totally okay. That's why we're having this webinar today. I really appreciate folks for jumping on and already asking some great questions. Give folks a few more seconds here. Looks like almost everybody's answered, and it's a little bit of a split here, actually. So we can share out those results. It looks like here about 31% of folks have created a work plan at their project. That's great. About a third of folks have done this at a past job, and about half of folks have never done this before. So really interesting. Thank you all so much for sharing. I'll pass back to Barbara, who I think's got some helpful things no matter where you are with this.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I really appreciate seeing this breakdown. Like you said, about a third have it now at your project, have done it before, never created one. I think that's super helpful. And for me, again, the process of completing a work plan, I think generally is consistent, right? No matter where you are or what you're doing. The exact format or the like components of the work plan may vary depending on what kind of tools you use or what kind of environment that you're in. So I'm eager to hear, other ways that folks have approached this as we're going through our work together. What I'm showing you right now on screen, the work plan components, these are the recommended work plans components that I'm offering, that VISTA is offering you for a VISTA service work plan, right? It isn't like a magic template. It's not written in stone, but it is meant to reflect what I think is very accurate for you and very much connected to your VISTA assignment description. You can see on screen there are some basic logistical facts like your VISTA position title, some names, some dates, along with some more narrative pieces that describe how you're going to go about your work. And there are other narrative pieces like what kind of performance standards are required for you in this role at your position, some details on activities. Really, this section is meant to be drawn from your VAD and then expanded once you get started in your year. And then there are also descriptions of the kinds of resources that you need and the other staff or other folks that you need to implement your plan. And then finally, the ninth component for a VISTA work plan is the most complex and time-consuming component for sure, and that is the interim milestone or interim milestones. They are meant to be extremely detailed and give you the ability to really map out in very much granularity all the steps needed to complete the activities that are listed in your VAD. So interim milestones highlighted, complex, exciting. Let's talk a little bit about what we mean here, and we'll start at the higher level of just milestones in general. I want to make our way to the magic of interim milestones in your work plan in just a moment. I think the notion of a milestone in general, right, or a milestone event is pretty common in our lives, right? It just means something important has happened, something big has occurred in your life. It usually indicates like something has changed in your life. Usually it's something you see coming, like it's a big deal, something that you see coming, something that's going to change you. In our personal lives, of course, right, there are all kinds of milestones, things like taking a big trip, a road trip, another kind of trip, going to a new school or starting some new type of training or education, advancing in your sport or leveling up in your favorite game, starting or into a relationship, and many, many more, right? These are very, very familiar concepts, I think, in our personal lives.
Yeah, so as Barbara shares here, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to answer the question in the chat. What's a personal milestone in your life? What's something maybe even outside of the VISTA project that you would call a milestone? So congratulations, Nicholas, completing grad school, completing college with high honors. Jessa, see a lot of graduation, Barbara. This is very cool.
Yeah.
Moving to Seattle.
Yeah.
A lot of completing MBA.
Yeah, lots of educational milestones, right? Those are, I think, same in my own personal life, right? Those are such big deals. Yep, going into law school, finishing law school, traveling to Nigeria. Wow, that's fantastic. Yep, moving to New Orleans. Oh my goodness. Yep, these are great. Oh, adopting my rescue dog, Camilla. Oh my goodness. These are wonderful.
I appreciate a couple of folks sharing that joining AmeriCorps and VISTA was a personal milestone. And I 100% agree. Joining AmeriCorps was a very big deal in my personal life, moving somewhere I'd never been before, completing service. I can definitely relate to a lot of these. So thank you all for sharing. I'll pass back to Barbara if there's any more comments you have.
Yeah, thank you for all of those. It's great. I see folks are still typing them in. I see becoming U.S. citizen, motherhood. I mean, this is big life that y'all are chatting in, and I think this is really wonderful. And I think the transition then, as we're thinking about like all of the various milestones that we're seeing in the chat in your personal life, I think the reality is in our work lives, right? And let's be even more specific, in our VISTA lives, since that is what joins us together today in commonality, is that your particular professional milestones in your role in VISTA is going to be very personal to you, right? It will be very specific to your project, to the community where you're serving. And if we had a similar chat where we asked each of you, what's an example of a professional milestone, I suspect we would see the same kind of diversity and variance. And to me, that is honestly one of the great joys of the VISTA program. I love that you get to work on all of those types of milestones and types of projects. So let's turn a little bit and think about this type of milestone and make our way back towards the work plan, right? I think as you could see in your personal milestones, right, as I mentioned a moment ago, so many of them took a lot of intention, a lot of action for you. They were active processes: motherhood, school, travel, citizenship. These are big things that took a lot of action. When we think about milestones in our work lives, right, in our VISTA lives, in your VISTA project and the content of your work plan, for instance, you'll see the professional milestones are also things that require a lot of action, right? The examples you can see on screen right now, like launching a new service, a new community service at your VISTA project, recruiting volunteers, raising money for your project, right? These professional milestones, these are examples, of course, from the type of VISTA project, also take a lot of intention, a lot of strategy, time, and typically they take, you know, many people. It's not just you, the VISTA member, who's going to be making your way and completing this milestone. So the big milestones, the professional ones like launching a new program, recruiting volunteers, raising money, to me, I think we often see those show up in your VAD, in your VISTA assignment description, as goals and or member activities, right? And so to develop a work plan, hence the reason we're all here, the meaning of our day, is how do I take the information that was in my VAD that was given to me that I'm aware of and put that into an actionable, again, sort of intentional, strategic, proactive work plan. And this is where the magic of interim milestones really comes in. And that is the equation that you see on screen in front of you is the equation to create an interim milestone. An incremental step, which means a slice of work that needs to occur to get to a bigger milestone, plus the deadline, the timing for when that step has got to be completed, plus the actual date that that step was completed. Those three pieces of information can help explain how and when, and again, in pretty granular detail, how you're going to tackle and ultimately accomplish a particular task, ultimately accomplish and succeed at a particular milestone. So in order to get into a work plan and get into the level of usefulness, again, awesomeness that I think is so great about it, this is where the heavy lifting comes in. It's slicing up those big goals, those big activities, those big project milestones into these incremental steps that will all lead you back, right? Lead you back to your ultimate goal, your ultimate destination. So why do I think this is magic? You know, it's kind of, again, basic planning. I don't think we're breaking a ton of great ground here. You got your step, your deadline, you know, your actual date of completion. What I think makes this equation magic, and once it's built out over all of your year and all of your activities, is that I think over time, the interim milestones provide the best guide to your year ahead. And then again, they serve as kind of a diary for you to look back on as you move through your year. I think the effort of creating these steps and working your way to determine your deadlines with your supervisor or others in your project, and then documenting those actual dates when you get the steps done. I just think that is such an invaluable skill and so worth the effort that it takes for you to do that. I think it's also magic, frankly, when you do this kind of work in your project, and this is a written record, right? It becomes a bit of an artifact. As you move towards the end of your year, that written record becomes very, very valuable, very helpful data for any future VISTA members who may be serving in your role or serving at your project, or if there are no future VISTA members, right? That record will be very, very valuable for the project staff that you work with and the folks who will be doing the work once you complete your VISTA service. So that's a bit of an introduction. Again, what is a work plan in the VISTA world? What do we think a work plan is, and why is it awesome? How are some of the components put together, again, for a VISTA member? The next question is, we talked a little bit about milestones and interim milestones as well. The next question, the discussion item you can see on screen is, well, how do I do this, right? I get it. I get what a work plan is. I get what we're going for. Let's talk about how it is that you start to write a work plan, if that's where you are. And as we saw a moment ago, a bunch of folks already have a work plan. But if this is something that's new for you, or you're going to be starting over, let's talk about how you actually do this. So first of all, I want to invite you to feast your eyes on the beauty that is on screen right now. I hope that you're watching this on a device where you can appreciate the vast VISTA that is in front of you. There are going to be a lot of words coming at you in just a few minutes on screen, and I think now is a really good time to give your eyeballs a break. So feast your eyes, and while you're taking this break for your eyeballs, I also just want to say that I like this photo in addition to the physical pleasure of not looking at words. But I think the awesomeness of this image, to me, captures how I personally feel a lot of times. When I'm getting into work plan writing mode, I feel amazed, like, holy cow, this is a great, this looks fantastic. I'm enjoying looking at it. I also look at this image and think, this is making me nervous. I am overwhelmed by the scale of this. And I think that those two feelings, awe-inspiring and being overwhelmed, to me personally, that is my jam. When I'm writing work plans, that's how I feel. I think the scale of what's in front of me can be overwhelming. And I had those feelings, because, like I see some folks writing in the chat, like, writing a work plan is a big deal. It's a hard thing to do, and it can be kind of daunting as you're getting in, particularly if you're new, right? If you're a new VISTA member in your project and you're just learning who people are and where things are and how it all works to try to do something this big. It's writing, which can sometimes be rough, it's planning, it's collaborating with other people, good grief. You got to get other folks in on it. It's learning, right? You're learning about your project and your community, and it's doing all of those things at the same time. But let's break it down, right? And try to take some of the stress, hopefully, a little bit out of that. In my world, when I think of work plans, I think there are 4 big phases for VISTA members. The first phase, as you can see on screen, is to start with your VISTA assignment description. Like I said, it is absolutely the alpha, the beginning of all things related to your service year. So that is the place to start with your work plan. Now, my assumption is that your particular VISTA assignment description probably gave you some really good insights, right? Probably gave you a good project goal, some good objectives, and probably laid out some member activities that you would be working on this year. I'm also guessing it did not cover everything that you're going to be working on this year. And that guess that I'm making is just based on prior experience, working with VISTA projects, working with VISTA members. In my experience, I think VADs are fantastic at being like job descriptions. They kind of tell you a little bit, give you a little bit of a sense of what you will be doing as a VISTA member, but they don't really tell you the how and the when and the with whom and in what order. They don't break it down a lot. I think VADs paint a nice picture, but the details is where I think a work plan comes in. So phase 1, get to know your VAD, know it in and out, update it if it needs to be updated, make sure that it is your friend. Once you have conquered your VAD, the next step is to conquer the calendar. Look at your 12 months of your VISTA year, or however many months you have remaining, right? I want to acknowledge, like, not everybody is in month 1 who's on our webinar today. Map out those 12 months or however many months, document the key dates that you're already aware of, things that already have shown up for you in your VAD or in your orientation at your project and other work. Add in the holidays that are coming, add in any personal milestones that you have coming, right? If you've got some life events that are happening in this year, drop those bad boys on your work plan because they are just as important to you and will become as important to your supervisor as y'all move through your year together. So get to know your VAD, outline your 12 months with as much information as you have. As you're doing that, right, as you're getting that calendar together, that's a perfect time to get your supervisor in on the action. Get them to help you drop in those key dates, drop in those things that you know or that your project knows are coming down the pike. And that can be just a great kind of low risk way to begin collaborating on your work plan with your supervisor. And then that takes you to the 4th phase, which of course is the big one. The phase when you start putting things together and crank out those interim milestones. All right, words. I'm warning you, so many words on screen. So I want to talk a little bit about and show and work through an example of how this might work for a VISTA member in a project, in an actual service project. So on screen right now, this is an example, it's just for training purposes. The VISTA project that we are going to use in this example is a nonprofit organization called AmeriCorps. At AmeriCorps, there's a brand new VISTA member who just started at the end of August. We can see there are a few sections on screen from the VISTA assignment description. We can see that the project goal from AmeriCorps is to help children of incarcerated parents receive the educational, social, and emotional support they need to break the cycle of poverty, right? So that is the overarching goal of the VISTA project. The VISTA member in this organization is going to achieve a major objective. They're going to create a new mentor program during their service year. And then in this example, again, the VAD does outline some major activities that the VISTA member will do in their service year. They're going to create some volunteer position descriptions. They're going to actually recruit students to be mentored. They're going to recruit the volunteer mentors. And then in this example, and the way it's drafted, you can see that the project is planning to first pilot the mentor program at the beginning of the service year and then scale it all the way up to the full service of 25 students, 25 mentors by the end of the VISTA year. So I think this example is fairly straightforward. I mean, the project goal, super clear. The objective, create a mentor program, very, very clear. And the activities do show some of the detail and some of the deadlines. To go further, to get into work plan land, then let's start at the beginning of what the components are for a work plan. So quick, another peek at this. These are the 9 components again from VISTA's point of view. We think these are the things that would be most useful to you as a VISTA member in your work plan. At this point in the process, we know our project goal for AmeriCorps, and we know some of the member activities. So we're going to jump into how does this look, in the example that we're using. All right. So the first few components we have on screen from the work plan. In this example, the VISTA member, the position that they're in is they're going to be a volunteer coordinator, right? The VISTA member is Vic McVista, started at the end of August, and Sue O'Supervisor is Vic's supervisor. The goal here is to complete the work plan by October 2nd. For our example, we're saying kudos to you, Vic, you've done that. And the example that you're seeing is the 5th part of the work plan component is the review and update process for the work plan itself. So this part is pretty extensive. Number 5 on screen right now is pretty extensive. You can see Vic and Sue are planning to use this work plan and talk about it at weekly member supervisor check-ins. Vic is also going to use his work plan to create quarterly written reports throughout his year. And then Vic and Sue are going to use the work plan as part of an end of year written report as well as exit interview. So that's a lot. In this example, the review and update process is a lot. I think for you and your particular position, you may do more or less of the review and update, but I do want to encourage you to keep this section and to really discuss this with your supervisor and use it as an active part of your discussion in the months ahead. So on screen now in our example, you can see component number 6, which is the performance standards required. And this means, what is it, how is Vic expected to do his work, right? The things that we're going to put in his work plan, the tasks and the deadlines and all that, how is he meant to deliver his work? What are Sue's expectations? And so here, again on screen, you can see 3 examples from AmeriCorps. They relate to written materials, they relate to communications, and they relate to timeliness of reports. I think this is a fine example. It doesn't mean that this will necessarily be relevant for you. I think for your work plan, what's expected from your supervisor is going to be probably, pretty tailored to that individual and to your relationship with them. But I do, again, like the review and update process, I encourage you to talk about this as early as you can with your supervisor, just so you know going in what's expected of you, and they can be really clear as well. All right, so those are the first 6 components. We've got a few more left in our AmeriCorps work plan example. We're going to look at some of the details now, and to do that, again, we go back to the VAD. What's on screen now is just a pulled out emphasis of the member activities. We're going to focus on the first activity, which is to create mentor position descriptions by the end of January. Now, this is another way of visualizing how you might write this thing, right? As I mentioned a few moments ago, the work plan is a written record. So this is one way that you could show the activity from the member assignment description, which is in the left column. And then in that second column in the middle, the biggest column that you can see on screen, this is where you will write down those incremental steps. And so in our example, Vic VISTA, who's going to be working with AmeriCorps, actually came to AmeriCorps with a good amount of experience about volunteer management with adults. However, he didn't know anything about working with middle school students, and he had never worked on a mentor program before. So one of his first incremental steps you can see on screen was to do some research, right? Vic needs to find out, how do mentor programs work? How is this a thing in the world? And how does that research relate to the work that he'll be doing in his project? That research could and likely did lead Vic to determine some additional incremental steps. And these are really the heart of the steps needed to complete this particular activity. Find out the needs of the project, find out the needs of the students, talk to the project staff, get in with the school if you can, try to figure out how the mentor program at the AmeriCorps site is going to work. And then with that, right, with those first 1, 2, 3, 4 incremental steps, that leads us to the 5th step, which is getting his position descriptions drafted, getting feedback on them, and then finalizing them by the deadline. So at a glance, I don't expect you to read the detail that's on screen. It's probably super tiny for you right now. Please don't sweat that if it's not easily read. But I just wanted to show you a bit of a fuller look at what an example in a work plan from activity in a VAD through the incremental steps, plus the initial deadlines, plus the actual dates completed, and the staff and resources needed looks like. You can see in the chat right now, this document that shows you in bigger text. What's on screen right now is in the chat for you. So if you haven't accessed that already, I definitely want to encourage you to do it. There are a couple things to point out here. Again, if your eyes can't make it out, no worries. I'll just say this, and I think hopefully the Word doc will be more visible. In this full example of this activity and these incremental steps, you can see that Vic's supervisor, Sue, really makes a strong showing, right? Like she's got a lot going on in terms of helping Vic get this work done, from helping him figure out where to do his research in that first step, to getting input on the initial draft of his position description, and then reviewing it and giving additional feedback, right? Sue is all over this. In addition, you can see that the dates, the deadlines, and the actual dates completed, there's a little bit of variance. Like as Vic got a little closer into the holiday season, there were a couple of times when he slipped a little bit and didn't meet his original deadlines, and noted that the reason he did not meet those deadlines was because of the fall fundraiser. And I think, again, this is meant to be for you an example of why this record can become such a useful artifact, right? It shows the work that Vic did, the time he thought it was going to take him, and then it also captures a little bit of like what didn't go quite according to plan and why, and that's very, very helpful for the future. I think it's really helpful for tracking progress, again, helping future VISTA members who may come after him or future staff just understand if they ever find themselves having to create a similar activity, complete a similar activity in the future. Okay, so I know that was a lot of words. I'm definitely feeling your eyeballs burning through the internet. And I want to shift our brains a little bit from the mentor program example and recruiting volunteer mentors to think about a different kind of activity, right? Apply the same kind of question about how do you take a big activity like organizing a fundraising event and slice it up into incremental steps. So if you could take a minute and just think of any steps that you would do if you were in this role, you had to organize a fundraising event. What are some incremental steps you think you would need to take? Or if you were advising a VISTA member whose VAD said, oh, all right, I got to organize a fundraising event. What am I going to do? How am I going to do that? What do y'all think are some potential incremental steps there? And if you want to be sure just to select to everyone, you can make sure that everyone can see your answers. Yep, I see great answers going in. Get some volunteers, delegate, do some research on spaces, right? If it's an event, they're going to need to hold it somewhere, get a location, get a date, figure out what your fundraising goal is, find your target audience, who's coming to this event, what's going to go on. Tons and tons of great ideas coming into the chat right now. Yep, who are you inviting? How much money you're going to be making? How are you going to collect that money? Is it going to be an auction? Is it going to be, a game night, right? What's the mechanism for raising the cash? What's your social media presence? What's your marketing of the event to get people there? And then what's your promotion? Like, how are you going to tell people how fantastic this event is and how fantastic it was? So these are fantastic examples. And so if y'all can imagine, like, we were in a big room together and we were trying to create a work plan to carve out the incremental steps for this activity, organize a fundraising event, this could be like a huge planning wall where all of the ideas you're putting in the chat are like Post-it notes on a wall. The next step is then we have to put those Post-it notes in order. Like, what do I do first? How long do I need to do that one thing? So that is where, as you can imagine, and I'm sure because many of you have experience with work plans, that is where the time and the strategy and, again, the collaboration really comes into play. Thank you so much for those ideas. Yep, I think I love tons of stuff that I'm seeing in the chat right now. Thank you. So I think a question that I'm often asked is, like, literally, not just when we're fundraising, in fantasy on a webinar, but in real life, when I've got an activity in my VAT and I need to slice it up into these incremental steps, how do I know what to do? How do I know how to do that? And so generally for VISTA members, in my experience, there are four major ways, right? One is to use the experience that you've had in your prior life. Perhaps you've served in AmeriCorps before in a similar role. You've had a similar job. You may have had training on the type of activity that you need to be working on, and that training can help you know the steps that you would need to take, or at least know where to start to begin working on that. Like Vic, you could also conduct research. You could build your own skills or knowledge to be able to make decisions about your interim milestones or about your incremental steps. You may also be able to draw on the expertise and the knowledge of your supervisor, again, or your colleagues. If you have a VISTA leader in your project, they are an absolute goldmine of information and ideas and recommendations. You can also reach out to other VISTA members around the country, right? So figuring out in the real world, right, when you're playing in the real world with actual activities and actual incremental steps, I think you can draw on this whole canopy of sources to figure out what it is you're doing. And like Vic, I think, in the example we used a few minutes ago, I do think your supervisor is a particularly useful cog in this machine. I think they often will have a lot of information, a lot of input, and just feedback for you as you're getting into this particular step. So these are some of the things we've talked about today, right? We looked at the usefulness and the awesomeness of a work plan. We've looked at what the components could be for a VISTA member. We've talked about how it's both a planning ahead tool for you to see your year ahead, your roadmap, and then it's also a looking behind to see the record of your progress and your accomplishments. We've talked a little bit about milestones and interim milestones within the context of your VAD and your work plan. We've talked about the 4 phases, right, of starting with your VAD, mapping out your 12 months, getting your sites input, and then breaking it all down into your milestones. And then we've looked at an example, the AmeriCorps example, and then the quick fundraising activity as well.
Barbara, I really appreciate you sharing all that. And thanks everyone for your great reflections in the chat. Do want to give folks an opportunity to share what resonated with you today. It may help others who are processing this. This is a big question. I know it's a lot to consider today, but as you were listening to the components of a work plan, the examples you worked through with Barbara, what stood out? What do you think you will take away from today? Thanks, Christina. Yeah, the layout of making a work plan. Love this idea, Ms. Ann Harrison, of wanting to redo your work plan or start it. Table and example, helpful. Interesting to add in personal goals. Yeah, really good. Yeah. And I appreciate the good feedback here. Yeah, Barbara, anything that's resonating with you?
Yeah, a couple of things I saw early on, someone noted the similarity to what we've been talking about today to project planning, which I think is absolutely true. If project planning is the thing that you are very familiar with, I think that's super, super akin to work planning as well. And I really like the comment a moment ago about being sure to insert your life into your work plan, your personal self, your personal milestones, your personal goals. Like, what is it that you want to get out of your year? To me, is just as important in your work plan as what is expected of you at your project, right?
Yeah, some really outstanding things in the chat. Would encourage you to scroll through, and please feel free to keep sharing if you're still typing. Some really great things to learn from these amazing VISTA members. I do want to move to a couple of quick review questions because if you're like me, you might be saying, where do I even start? And that's the first question here. Where does a work plan begin? So a poll is going to come up on your screen. The first of 2, where does a work plan begin? Interim milestones, site staff meeting, your VISTA service start date, or your VISTA assignment description. Take a moment to answer. Great job, and thank you to folks who've already done so. Give folks another few seconds here. All right, and these will be pretty rapid fire. I do want to thank folks for answering. We'll reveal the correct answer here. It looks like over 76% of folks got this. The VISTA assignment description is the best place to start building your work plan. Hope that was something you'll take away from today, and definitely something we can help you access if you have any questions moving forward. All right, last review question. What are interim milestones? We talked about a bunch of these with Barbara. Resources, deadline, supervisor, activity, staff, and incremental step, deadline and delivery date, or actual delivery date, VISTA position title, and performance. Thanks for answering. We are definitely happy to get you connected to the VISTA member support unit. If you've got questions on any of this, can definitely follow up to help at your sites. Do want to make sure you feel good about these really important pieces of a work plan, which Barbara walked through. Really, really nice. Give folks a few more seconds. Love to see the thumbs up. See folks doing a great job. We can reveal the answer. It looks like close to 80% of folks got this one. So yes, it is going to be C, the incremental step, the deadline, the actual delivery date. That's what's going to make those milestones valuable for your work plan, to create a record of all the incredible things you accomplished this year. And thank you so much for the incredible work that you are doing at your project site. We're really honored to work alongside you in this work. I'm going to pass back to Barbara for a couple of final notes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. I do. I just have a couple more, I just cannot stop it with the PR for work plans. So I'm going to say a couple things, and then we should have time for Q&A as well. I know folks have been typing in some questions. Let's, look at a few cool things to do to make the most of your work plan experience. I think the best tip I can give, and I've said this and I will say it again, is to budget time. I mean, it is a big task and one that is so valuable. As we've discussed today, it just takes time to figure these things out, to talk to people, to draft stuff, get feedback, redraft it. I think it is such a important thing for you to do. I mean, I kind of think of it as professional self-care, which is weird to think of a work planning process in that way. But I do think of that in that way for myself, for our team. I try to carve off a little bit of time every month, like I said, to do this kind of work myself, and really encourage you to do it. A few more quick tips. I mean, I think you cannot, when you're writing your work plan, you cannot go too far on the detail. I think extreme detail is the way, is the milk that flows through the veins of a good work plan, right? It is absolutely integral to help you get the work done, and really it builds your project management skills, as y'all have identified. I want to encourage you to use, the full range of time that you have ahead of you. If it's 12 months, yay. If it's less than that, that's okay. Like however many months you have are the number that will be useful for you. Like I talked about with the AmeriCorps example and some of the other notes on the content of those incremental steps, I do think it's really common and frankly really great when you need to learn something or you need to research something in order to perform an activity in your BAD, right? I think that's kind of part of the fun of being a VISTA member, is that you get to be challenged to do something you may have never done before and you don't know how to do it. Well, that's great, and build in time for you to learn how to do those things. Like I said, put in your professional development. I think that's just as important as anything else. And then the final tip is to keep your work plan alive, right? I think the best work plans are those that have a beating heart. I think they're great for you now. They're super great for you as you near the end of your year and start updating your resume and looking at, life after VISTA and life after AmeriCorps. I hope at this point, I know we've been moving quickly. I know, like I said, there's just a ton of words, but I hope that you feel some of these resources can be valuable to you and applicable to you now, and that they'll be helpful for you during your VISTA service and beyond. I mentioned that there are a number of ways to create work plans, and project management tools I think are useful as well. The resources that you see on screen right now, Basecamp, Gantt, Miro, Smartsheet, those are things that I'm familiar with or that I've worked with people that are very familiar with. There are many tools though. So I know we have folks on this webinar who are very experienced with work plan development or project management. If y'all know of other tools you would recommend, please drop those bad boys in the chat. I would love to see more offered there. But as a place to start, I do think Miro, I think Basecamp, I'm familiar with both of those. And Gantt, I think, is one that I've heard a lot of people sing the praises of. You'll see on screen like the premium services for some of these tools cost money, but typically free trials are available. And that's always what I go for, the free trial first to see if I like it, and then see if I want to invest in the tool. So hopefully this will be useful for you.
Barbara, thank you so much. These are some incredibly helpful tips, and love to see Abigail's comment about this inspiring you to step up with a work plan throughout the year. Thanks to everybody for all that you've shared. We are going to put in the chat a webinar evaluation. We would love to get your feedback and ways that we can make this better for new AmeriCorps members. You'll see that in the chat now. Thanks, Stephanie, so much for sharing it. It'll also open up automatically when we wrap up today and when you exit Zoom. So thank you all so much for your feedback. I see we've got some great questions, and we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire lightning round for Barbara here. So a common question I saw in the chat and from Melissa in the Q&A is this something that we're required to do at your site? Does VISTA ask for a work plan, Barbara? Are you required to submit a work plan at the end of your term with your accomplishments, tasks, and goals? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I know. I really love that question. And I'm so sorry. I buried the lead. No, you are absolutely not required to submit a work plan for VISTA, right? Like that is not a VISTA program requirement. I think it's a best practice. Like I said, I think it's a great professional skill. I really encourage you to do it for yourself, if for no other reason. But no. You don't have to do this. You don't have to turn anything in.
Yeah, super helpful. Thanks, Barbara. I see Daniel's asked some good questions in the Q&A about the template, and I will note we're very happy to follow up with you offline if you've got questions about it. But Daniel's wondering, how do we break each objective down into incremental steps? Do you reuse the template for each objective? Do you just have any advice for using the template that we've shared today, Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty old school, right? So everything for me is just like a chart, like you could see on screen. So if I were going to use this in an actual VAD, from an actual VAD to an actual work plan, I would just build an extensive series of those mini charts. Like I would have the incremental steps for one activity, the way that we looked at it on screen when we were looking at Vic's Mentor Core example. Then I would add in the next section for my next activity, my next set of incremental steps, my dates, my people, my resources. I would add another set if that's appropriate. So to me, I would just keep expanding the document using the same like headers. But that also is may not be a format for you that's most useful.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, is the work plan meant to just be for one project, Barbara, or should you have something that documents your entire year of service?
Yeah, I mean, I think conceptually it would be for your whole service project, your whole service year. So it'd be a single document that would cover all of the activities that you would be doing over the entire 12 months. I know that some VISTA members, though, have very distinct types of functions or activities in their VAD. In that case, you might want to create separate work plans, but it would really be up to you. I think generally, though, the notion is that it's like the Lord of the Rings. It's one work plan to rule them all, to rule all of your activities, to show all of your deadlines, all of your dates of accomplishment. You know what I mean? Like in one big thing.
Thanks, Barbara. And then Jane shared in the chat earlier, asked, in the VAD, do the performance measures drive the work plan's form?
Say that again, Stephen. I'm sorry. I think
so do the
my audio cut out.
No, you're good. So do the performance measures in your VAD drive the final work plan form?
Oh, interesting. So the performance measures, if your VAD has particular performance measures, performance objectives, then I think they should make their way into your work plan. I'm not sure if they would become like milestones that you would slice up into incremental steps, or if they would be more of kind of overarching goals. It depends on how detailed the performance measures are, if they're showing up in your VADs. Now, there are, in a bigger sense, there are performance measures that your project has in their e-grants, right? In their project application. To me, that's a whole different world. That's not a thing that would, the e-grants performance measures shouldn't make their way into your work plan unless they have also made their way into your VAD, right? Everything is from a VAD. As I said, the VAD is your alpha. It's the starting point for everything. I did just see a comment in the chat that I wanted to call out because I think it's a really insightful one and totally accurate. I mentioned a moment ago that work plans are not required by VISTA, 100% true. Some of your projects, though, your supervisor might require you to create a work plan. Some of you that indicated you've done that this year may have had to do it because your supervisor in your project told you to. That's absolutely at their discretion. So thanks for emphasizing that. And I just wanted to clarify because that's a great nuance that may apply to you.
Yeah, Barbara, thank you so much for all of this. I can't think of a better expert resource on this topic. We would love to follow up and support you more one-on-one. Again, as I mentioned, the VISTA member support unit, Chris just dropped that email in the chat, vmsu@cns.gov. Wonderful team of specialists there to help. We will also be sharing, I'll talk through this in a moment, but sharing this recording via email. We'll be posting it on the campus. We'll share the slides and handout as well. But Barbara, shout out to you. Thanks to everybody for joining and thanks for sharing all this really helpful information. I do have a couple of other notes. We have covered a ton of ground today, from the 9 components of a work plan to the magic of interim milestones that Barbara has talked us through, a glimpse of what a plan could look like in real life. I hope this has given you some things to consider at your project and with your supervisor. And from the Zoom emojis, it looks like this is resonating with you. I love it. Lots of laughing, crying, happy, celebrating. A friendly reminder, as I mentioned, we are going to post the recording and handout on the VISTA campus later this week. Saw some great notes that, hey, this might have been helpful earlier in service. The great news is there are amazing recordings of topics all across the VISTA universe on learn.americorps.gov. You're just going to need to log in and locate the learning path of what you're looking for. For this webinar, once you're logged in, you can click on the catalog. You'll see a red square on the screen. This will bring you to the learning paths available. And we're going to put this one under My Professional Development. You can search for this. You can filter by members. Should be pretty easy to find. And if it's your first time accessing it, you'll have to enroll and join it. Just a couple quick steps. Once you've joined the learning path, you can browse through the available recorded webinars at your leisure. And so we are grateful you're here today. We hope you can join us next month for our webinar called Using Digital Tools to Make Volunteering More Accessible. We know many of you work with volunteers. We would love to have you join us. We're going to do this on Wednesday, October 25th, same time, same place, 3 to 4 Eastern. And we're actually sharing that registration link in the chat. We are also going to add it to the calendar on the October webinar. You can click View Upcoming Events. Just log into your campus account, click on the calendar from the main menu. A blue or green dot will indicate the event for the day. If you click on October 25th, you'll see the description and a link to register, and we would love to see you there. Lastly, a special announcement. Starting this month, AmeriCorps is celebrating 3 decades of national service. It's pretty amazing. Over the last 30 years, more than 1.25 million Americans of all backgrounds, including the amazing people on this call, have provided billions of hours of results-driven service across each of the 50 states and U.S. territories. We are honored to serve alongside you. We hope you'll take part in this AmeriCorps celebration. I love the celebration in the chat. We also shared a link that you can click on, learn how to share your service story, and help find 30th anniversary resources and events near you. So I want to thank Barbara again for sharing such wonderful advice today, Chris for jumping in the chat and the Q&A, and thank all of you for your service, for joining today's presentation. Thank you for all that you do. We look forward to seeing you very soon.